happens every year on August 6th. August 6th doesn't always fall on a Sunday. I thought it was kind of an interesting coincidence that Transfiguration Day happens to be on a Sunday, and it happens to be my first Sunday as your vicar. So I've been spending some time in between moving and getting cars situated and things like that happening, thinking about a sermon, thinking about what to bring on this significant day, Transfiguration Day, my first Sunday, that kind of thing. So let's start by imagining what must have been going through the disciples' head. Peter, James, and John were with Jesus that day. Now this was before Jesus died. This was before he was resurrected. We see Jesus today as a died and crucified, resurrected, risen Lord. We know that what he said is true because of these things. But they didn't know that. What do you think was going through their head? What do you think they were thinking that day when they went up on the mountain? Now, Jesus had called them away from their routine lives. He offered a message of hope and redemption and salvation. It was a convincing message. Convincing enough to pull them away from their lives. I wonder, did they really think he was God incarnate? They'd witnessed him teaching. They'd witnessed him proclaiming the good news to the oppressed and the marginalized. They'd seen him perform miracles, and this is from the Gospel of Luke. Before this, a couple chapters, according to Luke, they'd even seen him raise a young man from the dead. But really, was Jesus much different than any of the other string of prophetic figures, messianic figures that were around the ancient world at that time? Prophetic figures who even had healing powers? He was a great teacher, profound spiritual leader. There's no doubt about this. He's a healer. So yes, he's godly, but is he really God incarnate? I'm sure the disciples wrestled with some questions like this as they watched Jesus perform his miracles and teach and preach. So he leads these disciples up the mountain that day, the Mount of Transfiguration. And near the top, something spectacular, truly amazing, different than any miracle they've ever seen happens. Jesus actually lights up. He's illuminated. He's brighter than the noonday sun. To top it all off, a cloud enshrouds the mountain, so the sun's even blocked out. There's Jesus illuminated. And then they hear this voice, "This is my son, my chosen one. Listen to him." So I think for disciples back then, they're left with a few options, right? Maybe they're going crazy. If I was with them, I'd think, what is going on? Or maybe they're having a dream. Maybe this is sleep. Or the third option, this is Jesus. Not just a man, but who he says he really is. And therefore, he's doing what he says he's set out to do. If we go with option 3, he's not merely a man. He's not merely a great teacher, a spiritual leader, a healer. He is actually God incarnate. And that means that if we go with this option, that means he's accomplishing what he said he would. He is ushering in an entirely new era. He's transfiguring not just himself, but the world, all of creation. The kingdom of the old world, of humanity, is passing. It's fading away into darkness. The new kingdom, the kingdom of God's world, is becoming more and more apparent all around us. It's kind of an exciting day for me to begin my tenure here at St. Thomas. Now, in between my last day at St. Paul's and today, I had a chance to do some continuing education work. So really what that means is that my last sermon I preached, or one of the last ones, I think it was my last one, was on June 11th, which was Trinity Sunday. So I've been thinking through, Transfiguration. I'm also recalling some of the things I said in Trinity Sunday. I'm thinking there's some neat connections here. So bear with me a minute. We're going to get into the Trinity, and then we'll come back to the Transfiguration. And the thing I want to connect us to with the Trinity is the Trinitarian relationship, right? God is 3 in 1 and 1 in 3. And if God is truly this, as our theology teaches us, what is that relationship like? Well, for starters, it has always been 3 in 1 and 1 in 3. And it always will be 3 in 1 and 1 in 3. This means before created order ever took place, before the creation ever happened, outside of time and space, God is 3 in 1 and 1 in 3. And after the culmination of all things, after the new heavens and the new earth are realized, God is still 3 in 1 and 1 in 3. There's a relationship there. A beautiful, harmonious, complicated, dancing sort of relationship. That's pretty exciting. But what do we imagine this relationship to be like? Do we think it's maybe characterized by like one boss and 2 subjects? Does the Father employ the Son and the Holy Spirit to do His bidding? Think about this. If this were like an earthly relationship with a boss and employees, don't you think there'd be some disagreements? Don't you think there might be some arguments and some fights and some kind of divine drama taking place? But there's none of this in the Trinity. If we go there, actually, the Christian Trinity becomes more like the ancient Roman and Greek pantheon, where okay, just for fun, for instance, the lesser god Hermes would always manipulate and deceive the greater god Zeus to try to get his way. You think that's going on in the Trinity between the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit? No, you can't see this. We don't imagine it. But on the other hand, when we try to think about 3 in 1 and 1 in 3 and what that means, it's hard to comprehend, but there's co-equality going on. There's co-eternity, but co-equality. There's I mentioned a divine dance going on. There's this complicated dance where no one ever missteps. Everybody knows his partner's steps ahead of time, and they're working really well together. Perfectly, in fact, perfect harmony, perfect unity. And there's a word for this, perfect love. When we think about the Trinity in that way, the Trinity is love. God is love. Doesn't that sound like a message some guy a couple thousand years ago was teaching? Right. Well, that perfect harmony, that perfect unity and co-equality, that's what Jesus said He was doing when He's transfiguring the world. The kingdom of heaven, which Jesus in His incarnation is ushering in, that kingdom, perfect love, perfect unity, perfect harmony. He is inviting all of us to become a part of that. In that sense, He's inviting us to be a part of the Trinity. That's amazing. It's mind-boggling, really. Well, the early church, there's our theology lesson. I'm going to give us a history lesson now. The early church actually got it. They really got this message about the Trinity. In fact, the early church, if you know the first few centuries of church history, bishops from all over the world, as far as the church had spread, would come together for these ecumenical councils to work out their theology. They were trying to understand what Jesus' mission was on earth and what His theology was. So they would come together, and their chief theological concern was the Trinity. How do we understand the Trinity? And so after a few centuries, they hammered out a document, a statement of faith that has come down to us, and we still say it today. The Nicene Creed. It's all about the Trinity. The early church was getting it. They were developing the theology, the ideas of the Trinity. But somewhere around the turn of the 5th century, things began to change in the church. One bishop began to feel more important than another one. And so he became hey, I'm an archbishop, right? Another one responded by calling himself another fancy name. Well, if you're the Archbishop, I'm a metropolitan. And to this day, in the Eastern Orthodox Church, the leaders there are called archbishops, they're called metropolitans. But one started to say one thing, one started to say another. One Christian city began to say, we're more important than all the others. I mean, someone had to be in charge, right? It's simple common sense, all that Trinity pie in the sky, idealism. We can't really function in co-equal, co-eternal ways here on earth. One archbishop must be preeminent in authority over all others. One archbishop must be, shall we say, the Papa? And so, around the turn of the 5th century, church government becomes hierarchical. And hierarchy is the same kind of government that the human system was doing. Rome, with its emperor, its senators, its equestrians. Now we had a pope, the clergy, the laity, in a hierarchical way. But I thought Jesus was ushering in a new era of harmony, of unity, of co-equality. I thought his followers wouldn't be subject anymore to the oppression of a secular establishment like the hierarchy of Rome. For that matter, I thought that religious establishments wouldn't capitalize on things like fear to dominate their subjects. I thought the Transfiguration was not simply about an individual man being transfigured before a few other individuals. I thought instead the Transfiguration was about fundamentally altering all of the created order, about transforming the world from darkness to light, from oppression to liberty, from death to life, about eradicating hierarchy so that all humanity, and I could say even all creation, which I know this church recognizes within pets, which I love, but all creation should dwell together in unity and harmony, perfect love. That we should dwell in that divine dance with the Trinity. That's what I thought Transfiguration was about. So why has the church gone back to a hierarchical governmental structure? So, one point in my Trinity Sunday sermon, I asked my audience to imagine what it might look like. I'm going to ask you to do that too. If we had continued to develop this Trinitarian theology down to today, our liturgy would probably look similar to how it does, but I'm sure it'd be different. What kind of changes would be there in our liturgy? What kind of changes might be there in the music we listen to? Or in the art we see? Or even in the architecture we feel around us? Good questions to ask. Somebody has suggested that church and around, that's kind of an architectural idea where the altar's in the middle and people meet all around. That might be more of a Trinitarian idea of co-equality. I don't know. But these are good questions to ask. What would it look like? And the reason I say they're good questions to ask is because this is Transfiguration Day. When the disciples went up on the mountain with Jesus and they saw him transfigured, there was no more doubt in their mind that this was none other than the Son of God, God incarnate. Jesus was who he said he was. Jesus was doing what he said he was doing. We're at a point in church history where we have some kind of confusing change ahead of us. We're like the disciples going up the mountain. What is going on? We don't know what our future's like. A cloud of darkness is maybe enshrouding us. I mean, it's no secret, the last 40 years, church has been in decline. This can be a little scary when it comes to things like our mission, but also when it comes to things like paying our bills. Church isn't sustainable in the way it was 40 years ago. So what are we going to do? We're kind of like those disciples, aren't we? The day of Transfiguration is not just a day where Jesus was transfigured as an individual in front of a few other individuals. But he was transfigured to show the whole world that he's ushering in this new kingdom. The church is facing a similar transfiguration. It's time for the church to show the world that we truly are a divine institution. I think the way to do that is to get rid of some of these old hierarchical ways of doing things. It's time to leave behind things like top-down leadership, the idea that Father knows best, and other hierarchical structures, and return to an even older time of Trinitarian relationships, of divine dance, of harmony, of unity, of love. It's pretty neat that my first day here is Transfiguration Day. Some neat thoughts, huh? Well, may Christ be glorified in St. Thomas and the future we have together. Amen.